Hi, everybody. It's Al. We're in, it's Halloween here in the East Coast. Is it a Halloween in other parts of the country? That was stupid.
Yes.
Sorry. It's Halloween in the United States. Canada? Canada just Halloween? I don't think so. It's Halloween in the United States. I'm just going to say I do not care a fig about Halloween, but my colleagues seem to. Laura's like, what's wrong with this guy? I thought he was a nice guy. Now he's poo-pooing. And you're probably away from home, so you don't have to deal with the trick-or-treaters, right, Laura? You're going to stay? Yeah, you're going to be there. Dressed up as... Okay. Let the record show Laura Lippman is here and doesn't remember that in order to say something, you have to have a mic. So she just said something that no one will know except for those of us in the room. Anyway, enough of that stuff. We're going to go around and say hello to everybody, and then we're going to start right away on our favorite poems of the week. And Sophia DeRose, who's done this kind of marvelous, are you getting this? Marvelous job of like pink Halloweenish confetti, only it's not orange and black. And she will, are you going to snort at me? She will write the names of the poems down, put them in a cup, and then we'll pick them out, and therefore randomly. Yeah, totally randomly. Oh my gosh. Lainey Brown.
Hi.
The pedagogy matches the poem. Finally, we're going to pick poems randomly in the week in which randomness and aleatory, quasi non-intentional is. We finally caught up with our pedagogy, or the pedagogy finally caught up with the poetry. It's pretty good. Good synchronous. We love week 9. Okay, Allie Castleman. Hello, my friend.
Hi, Al.
As I go around and say hello to people, you optionally can tell us what you're going to be, as they used to say, for Halloween. Allie, what are you going to be?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't thought about it yet.
Oh, you haven't thought about it. It's Wednesday.
I think I'm just going to wear Halloween socks in black and orange.
Very chic, New Yorker. Okay. And Kate Colby, what are you going to be? Hello, Kate.
Hello, sorry. I'm going to be over it.
What are the kids?
I'm leaving it to my daughter to
What are the kids? What are the kids going to be? Have they worked that out?
Some sort of marginally sexy superhero.
Marginally sexy, says the mom. You're the one who came in with the marginally. I think they wouldn't go with that. Erica, what is happening? What happens in Red Hook on Halloween?
I hide in my house. There's a lot of things, like people dress up and everything. It's big on campus, but I'm not a Halloween person.
Sophia, what are the people saying about Halloween so far? Dave Poplar, hello, Dave in Arizona.
Hey, yeah, for me, Halloween is just the day or the evening that I have to remember to turn off all the lights in the front of my house and hang out in the back.
This is what a grumpy. Okay, all right, good. Thank you, guys. Sophia DeRose, hello.
Hi.
And what are you and Enzo going to do? Bopsy twins.
Oh, well, he has to work, but I was going to dress up as you.
Anybody got a mic to drop? Are you fucking with me?
No. I was talking with Lainey about it. We were strategizing.
It's true. I can corroborate.
That's ridiculous. All right, get a picture. Lainey Brown, hello.
Hi. Are you going to ask? You want to know what I'm going to do?
Yes, of course I do. That's the mode
Once
right
a
now.
witch, always a witch.
Mm-hmm.
Did you bring your witch hat?
I should have.
Okay. All right. Sophia, what are they saying?
We have some folks who also hide in their home. Mona said, I'm with Kate. I'm going to be over it. But we have...
This is great.
Catherine is saying that we are dressing up as heroes of punctuation everywhere.
Heroes of punctuation.
Yes.
What's the Marcella Durand, whom I haven't introduced yet, but I will in a second. What's the most heroic punctuation?
I'm a big fan of the comma.
Commas. Aiden, you don't have a mic, but what's your favorite? You do have a mic. We're going to introduce you in a second, but what's your favorite punctuation?
Semicolon.
Semicolon.
Annoying.
Dan Bergman, we haven't introduced you yet, but what's your favorite punctuation? I think I know.
says question mark.
I knew it. I could have said that.
Saved my life.
Oh, gosh. And you need to be closer to the mic, Michael. We have to tell you that every year. Real close to the mic. Okay, we haven't introduced these guys yet, but they've been, you've gotten a glimpse of them. Next up, Marcella Durand, you are here. We are pleased. You are a special guest. This is Marcella Day. Can you get right close to the mic? And yeah, there you go. And pull it.
How's
pull
that?
It to, yeah,
Good?
right to the edge there. Okay, good. So hello.
Hello.
You're here to do the webcast, and we're gonna make some ModPo Plus videos. Lainey is gonna be hosting, and then at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, United States, 6 p.m. We're going to be back in this room. The live stream will not be the usual ModPo live stream. It'll be a Kelly Writer's House live stream. Zach, nod if I'm getting this right. If I get it wrong, you stop me. All you have to do is go to the Kelly Writer's House YouTube page. And do you click live, the word live in the top banner? Or just it's there? It's like the picture. So the Writer's House picture on the YouTube default Writer's House page turns into the live stream. And you can watch. Marcella, you can also come back here to be with us in person. Thank you, Marcella. What are you going to be for Halloween?
It depends what I find in my son's closet. See what he's left for me.
All right. Wow. Okay, that's very cool. Michael and Dan Bergman, welcome back to the Writer's House. And Gab is here. Hello, Gab. Michael, Dan, hello.
Hello. And Dan says that for Halloween I'm going to go as a neurotypical person, but I'm not sure anyone will believe me.
You are so funny, Dan. That is really funny. I don't even know what to do with that. That's so cool. Okay, we also have, microphone please. Laura Lippman has come up from Maryland. This is becoming a party.
So I want to tell you about my last year's Halloween costume. I wore a beret and Doc Martens, and I sat in front of my house with a typewriter, and it said trick or treat or a poem by a beat, and I wrote poems on the spot from one-word prompts.
Wait, what was that last part?
I wrote poems from one-word prompts on a manual typewriter.
One-word prompts. So somebody come up and said, spooky, and you wrote a poem.
Yeah.
Okay. Any videos of that?
No, I have a photo of it, but I don't have
photo.
any videos.
Okay, this time, video. Great. It's good to see you. Aiden Hunt, hello, friend. It's good to see you. Tell us the name of your project that is online, that is helping support independent poetry books and so forth.
The Philly Poetry Chapbook Review, or the Philly Chapbook Review, is the poetry magazine that I run. I'm going for Halloween as middle-aged disabled man. Is the costume. But I love seeing, I don't get the grumpiness because I love seeing the little kids in costumes and giving them candy. Mm-hmm.
Great.
That's what I remember childhood from it.
Fantastic. And welcome back. You want to pass the mic back to Gabrielle. Hello, friend.
Hi. Are we saying Halloween costumes?
Yeah, I think we are, yeah. I haven't and won't, but I'm being represented by Sophia.
I think I'm going to go as the moon and just wear a ton of sparkly, shimmery white and silver.
That's really cool. Oh, I love it. And Sam. Hello, Sam. How did you get here?
Hi, I just moved to Philly like 4 days ago. Yay. And I saw this online, and so I showed up.
Sam? So do you really know what's going on?
I have no idea what's going on.
This is so great. ModPo. I mean, Sam, what the hell? We're a Halloween costume, whoever you
Cigarette.
are. Okay.
I don't
Why smoke. in a short sentence? Why did you move to Philly?
For my girlfriend. For love.
It's not even a complete sentence. That's great. Thank you. Welcome, Sam. Chris, who is on the phone?
We have two CTAs actually on the phone to share their favorite poem of this week. We have Terry Tawty and Jane Ward.
And Jane Ward. Okay. Terry and Jane, we're not to the poems yet. Tell us about your Halloween costumes, if you don't mind.
I'm going as a Republican. I put on a red suit and a hat and go as a Republican. I'm not sure anyone will believe me, though.
I love that. Is it Terry talking? Yeah. That's Terry.
Yes, that's
Hi,
Terry.
Good to hear your voice. You should carry with you a cup for raising money. And I won't tell you what to do next with the funds that you raise. But anyway, because this is not a political TV show. Jane, what are you going? Hello, Jane. What are you going to go for Halloween?
Well, I think I'm going to be grandma and stay home and answer the door where my kids go trick-or-treating. But maybe I'll find a mask.
Find a mask. Sounds great. Okay, we're about to get started with favorite poems of the week, which will then produce a roster in the mug that we can pick from. But I think, how many of you gathered around here today would like to know what Chris Martin is going to be for Halloween? It's unanimous. Even Kate, Grumpy Kate, wants to know. There's nodding. Okay. Well, not grumpy, but she's over it, you know. It's a version of grumpy. Chris?
Maybe like a rock star, you know, rock and roll star. Can bust my guitar out.
How
It's
many
getting a little
guitars do you own?
I have 6 guitars.
Okay, so if you pick one of them and it breaks because the kids vandalize it on Halloween, because I think that's what they do, then you will be one less, but you'll have 5 left.
Right. I have backups for just this kind of circumstance.
Anybody want to know what Zach is going to be for Halloween?
Yes.
Okay, we all do. Gab doesn't, but that's all right.
All right, it's not very PC, but we actually
Wait, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't
we
say
had a Halloween party. I was a ref. I was a certain kind of referee. I'll say it.
Certain kind of referee.
You just all leave it at that.
Aiden, what? A certain kind of referee. Did anybody get why that's not politically correct? Okay, never mind. Anybody want Magda to know what Magda is doing?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, what? Yeah,
I'm gonna be a shark attack because I have this shark hat and I have a sneaker that I put like a limb in with some fake blood. So that's what I'm gonna be.
Oh gosh, did anybody keep a list? Anybody out there in YouTube land keep a list because we need a list. Okay, now we're gonna go back around. Oh, we got everybody. We're gonna go back around. Please suggest briefly your favorite poem of the week so it can get put into the conversation. We'll start with Erica, and Allie will be up next.
So, favorite poem of the week?
Yes, please.
I think I want to return to, perhaps unsurprisingly, Not a Cage by Joan Retallack.
Joan Retallack, Not a Cage. Fantastic. Thank you. Allie's up and Kate's on deck.
I always want to talk about a vocabulary for Peter Innisfree-Moore.
The vocabulary for Peter Innisfree-Moore. A vocabulary. Here it goes, Magda.
I sit into necessary.
Move. Rinse.
Spicier. Uppermost rider.
Fabulous. Thank you, Allie. Kate's up. Dave's on deck.
I'm going to pick The Ventriloquist's Dilemma by Joan Retallack.
Oh,
We started talking about it in my office hour, but didn't get very far.
That is really great. A lot of love for Joan today. Erica, I'm going to call on you in a little bit just to tell us more about how you feel about Joan. Dave's up. Laney's on deck.
Dropping Leaflets, Jenna Osmond.
Fantastic. And why? Politics are kind of relevant now.
I think it's just super interesting how this was not constructed from a poem, but from real language in action about a specific factual event, and how that created something I think is a little bit different than some of the other aleatory works.
Focus on language as action, and in fact, that's what Jenna did. She took the language and then crumpled it up and tossed it around the room, which is a kind of action. Love that, Dave. Lainey and Sophia's on deck.
I'm going to go with $6.82 by Monica de la Torre.
Such a good poem. Thank you for the suggestion. Sophia's up. Marcella's on deck.
I think I'm also going to go with Not a Cage by Joan Retallack.
And why?
I just feel like this is a poem that shows how beautiful relationships can form, how beautiful relationships can form out of like context, out of circumstance, and out of the desire to find connectivity.
Well said. Thank you so much. Marcella's up and Dan is on deck.
I'm going to choose Bernadette Mayer's Writing Experiments, which I have turned to many times as an amazing reservoir of possibility, and that I interpret it as a sort of poem in itself.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Love that suggestion. Dan's up and Laura is on deck.
Dan's choice is Adagia by John Cage.
Nice.
And the reason?
Yes, the reason, but you got to get close to the mic.
Yeah, I need the reason. I need the reason first. Dan says, I love watching people try to understand the lack of meaning.
Okay, Dan, thank you. Laura is up and Aiden's on deck.
You jerk, you didn't call me up, which is in Modpo Plus.
It is, and it is a sonnet by Bernadette Mayer, and a famous one, really.
And because I think one of the most important moments in Modpo is that video in which Bernadette is here and she's asked if you have to know the rules of a sonnet before you start breaking them, and she's just like, no.
It was a one-word answer. I remember the scene. I think it was when she was a Writers' House Fellow, and somebody asked very sincerely. I love that. Okay, thank you. Aiden's up, and Terry Talty on the phone is on deck.
For me, it's Jenna Osmond, Dropping Leaflets.
And why?
It seems very relevant right now.
And you
it
should
seems
say
like we're
just a
going
little-
through
yeah.
another time that's crazy and nonsense, and that's what we're looking at.
I remember between 2 weeks and maybe 10 weeks after 9/11, in particular, the official language of the government literally did not make sense. It made sense if you sort of translated it into a certain kind of euphemistic, cruel way. Only if you did that could you understand literally what was being said.
I was a Republican at the time because my parents were Republicans. It made sense to me at the time. It wasn't until 2006 when I realized it was all a lie that I no longer am Republican anymore.
I just want to sing in praise of Aiden Hunt for a second. May I? Will that embarrass you?
Yeah, I guess.
So in my book, which I keep mentioning because I want everybody to buy and read my book, in my book, Aiden Hunt is mentioned. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
I've seen it.
You're in there. And the position that you articulate here and there by way of Stein's willing to repeat is the way in which you've made an advantage about your own idiosyncratic approach to hearing words and responding to them. And in a way, you're kind of describing that biographically with respect to growing up after 9/11.
Kind of, yeah.
So it becomes, your sense of language, your discovery of Stein's repetition, for instance, in a way, becomes a kind of, not a recuperation or a recovery, but an embodiment of what you really are and how you respond to the world.
Yeah. It was really, as I learned more, I became more sensitive to reality.
Yeah.
Instead of the policies that sound good but aren't real.
Right. Thank you so much, Aiden. We're going to go to Terry Talty on the phone, and Gab will be on deck. Terry?
My pick is Making Butter by Jason Zuzka.
If you have not, it's a video, isn't it? It's a video. I think
it's video, and then the transcript.
And
too
the
of it.
transcript. If you have not seen Jason's Making Butter in Modpo Plus, you must see it. I mean, Jason as a teacher in a regular old class, it's been a few years since he was in a regular old class, was something to behold. Really fantastic. Thank you for the suggestion, Terry.
Yeah.
Stay on the line a little longer, Terry. And now Gab, followed by Jane Ward. Favorite poem of the week, Gab.
I vote a vocabulary for Peter and Esprit Moore.
And why?
I've just been thinking a lot about collaborative poetry and performance as poetry. So I'm curious.
Yeah,
about
why?
that.
And Lainey, sorry to put you on the spot, but if somebody said, why collaborate? What's wrong with the good old individual poet in his garret writing his poems? Why do we have to collaborate? What is the advantage? Why not single authorship?
You're asking me that? You
Yeah,
know
I'm
the
being.
answer.
No, I know how you
the
feel
answer.
about it. I'm doing a
Right.
Charles Bernstein saying, like, what is this stuff with collaboration?
The more people, the more minds, the more thoughts, the more creativity, the better. Plus, it's more fun.
You could call it collaborative, also democratic, or at least inclusive. And that's really what politically is at stake in this week's poetry. Yeah?
Anarchist pacifist. What was the term he said?
Anarcho-pacifist.
Anarcho-pacifist.
Yeah, that's Jackson. Erica, I'm just interrupting before we go to Sam to ask you to say, because you care about teaching and about pedagogy, and what's been just said are phrases democratic pedagogy with respect to poetry or inclusive. Why is that, in your opinion, more effective in education than ... than the alternative traditional modes of conveying knowledge?
Wow, Al, that's a big question.
Yeah, I know, but these are the questions that you ask yourself all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that students, I mean, if you think back to John Dewey, we know that students learn more and retain what they learn when they learn experientially and democratically. So meaning that they're learning by doing.
So they literally retain.
Hmm?
They literally retain more.
Yeah.
Because
And, if I could just say one quick thing to tie it to this week, in the class that I'm teaching this semester, we are just emerging from an extended moment with chance in relation to Gertrude Stein. And I will say that my students have been so deeply engaged in a way that's quite different from the rest of the course. And part of that was because I was having them really actively making things in the space of the classroom by throwing dice and doing all sorts of weird experiments to come up with poems, kind of asking ourselves some of the questions that I know come up this week around authorship and chance and, and how meaning gets made. But they had so much more to say because they were making things.
And another Deweyan idea that we do better when we realize that something like poetry is made, poesis, it is made. And if you don't make it and just watch it having been made a long time ago, for instance, you don't actually get to make anything. You're just comment. That's the difference between criticism and poetics.
Dan has something.
Yes, Dan, please.
Dan says, I find that when I collaborate with someone, as I did in writing this, that at least two people learn something, and learning is contagious.
So that suggests, that was a great meta-pedagogical comment, Dan, of which you are expert. But that means, now a question for Michael, right? That means that he's teaching you while you collaborate on the spelling board, correct?
That's correct.
So you've learned a lot from Dan over the years.
Oh, yes.
And
much more.
What have you learned? You came all the way here from Massachusetts. You didn't think I was going to ask you easy questions.
I've learned that the human spirit comes alive in struggling to understand something with another human spirit.
So we're just going to pause and reflect on the truth of that. Thank you both. Love you both. I think Sam is next, and then Jane Ward will be our last suggester for poems. Sam?
I had nothing prepared.
We'll be right.
Oh, that's okay. You can skip if you want.
Cool. Maybe if I did put something in, we could think of every word that's been said so far in this room to be the poem to discuss.
Okay, Sam. First of all, who are you? What is going on? So I love it. The first thing you said is, I don't have anything to say. And then the next thing you said is totally in the spirit of week 9, which you probably don't even know what week 9 is. Okay,
No, I'm picking up the vibe, though.
What
I
is
like it.
going on here? Okay. All right, finally we go to, thank you, Sam. We go to Jane Ward. I love these webcasts where there's a lot of different characters. It's a 3-ring circus.
I'm going for Call Me Ishmael from Jackson McLough. I really love the pattern that's so obvious in that poem and the Call Me Ishmael title. And it reminds me of Fanny and Alexander. There's an Ishmael in that movie that plays a pivotal role. So that's my choice.
It's a great choice. And Jane's choice and so many others make me want to ballyhoo ModPo Plus because so many of the selections have come from ModPo Plus. And for those of you who are just trying to keep up as you go through the main ModPo syllabus, we love you. We're glad you did it. It is certainly the best way to approach ModPo for the first time. When you approach ModPo for the second time, and may there be a second time, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, etc., nth time, then you can do the main syllabus again because the first time through doesn't do it. And you can go to the discussion forums where we have a subforum for each poem in the main syllabus. But then you can go over to ModPo Plus as well as CCCR and TRC. But ModPo Plus, and you can find hundreds and hundreds of more poems. So for instance, Marcella will join us in the studio this afternoon and we will generate, is it 3, Lainey? 3 new videos or 2?
We're going to be generating one on a new poem by Marcella, which she'll be reading from one of her 2 new books tonight. So again, 6 o'clock, tune in.
Yeah.
And a couple poems by Elizabeth Willis.
Liz
from
Willis,
her
who
book.
will be a Writers House Fellow. And we'll get more video. And I guess, this is a way of saying that when we go on the road or when we stay here, we are constantly adding to ModPo. ModPo is not done. It can't be done. This is not what the MOOC platform providers thought it would be. In fact, it is exactly the opposite of what they thought it would be. This MOOC is open-ended and it keeps getting added to. And the best way to approach all this stuff, yes, ModPo Plus, there's a tab under resources in the Coursera platform version of ModPo, but modpo.org. Modpo.org, click on Explore. And if you do that, you can search every which way. So within a few months, you'll be able to search Durand, D-U-R-A-N-D, and you will get everything that Marcella has been involved in or anytime anybody has said something about Marcella, and it's all your own syllabus. Okay, I'll stop. Just an announcement or two, and then we're going to go pick from the cup so that we can talk about some poems randomly. All right, this week, people are writing essays. It's actually not essays so much as making poems. This is the 4th assignment. Many people do it year after year. It is the same. You have 2 options. One is to do a mesostic on the basis of the mesostic, the kind of mesostics that John Cage did. You can make your own mesostic using our mesostomatic. It's a little engine that we made, and you can use the mesostomatic. Everybody, on the count of 3, say mesostomatic. 1, 2, 3.
Mesostomatic.
It's a cool word, mesostomatic. So you can use the mesostomatic, make your own poem, take a screenshot of it, and post it to the forums, and people next week will comment on it. Or you can go to the great list, and it was always in flux because a lot of people used it and derived it and did stuff with it, of Bernadette Mayer's writing experiments. And there are many of them, and you can pick any one of those and write a poem or anything in response. That's happening this week. Then next week, week 10, we will have, in addition to exploring the week 10 poems, of which there are many, and they're cool, and we'll have a webcast on Wednesday of next week, but it'll also be a week where you can go to the essay assignment number 4 results that other people have posted and comment on them. And then there's only one thing left in ModPo Symposium mode. After that, Sophia DeRose, what will be left? There's only one thing left.
Our final words webcast.
Final words webcast on Monday at 10 a.m. And if you can come back or come here and be in person, it'll be great. But that'll be a chance for absolutely anybody and everybody to share their final words. And what's that? Oh, right. That's right. It got shifted. Yeah. Okay, so that's final words, and I'll post the final words thread, and we'll get going on it. Okay? All right. And I think the only other thing I want to say, two other things. Marcella, at some point during this webcast, maybe toward the end, I would love for you, if you brought a copy of your newest book, would you maybe read a short poem from it? And then one more thing. We put out the word that anyone who is a teacher, who was a teacher, who cares about teaching, who cares about education in the context of the ModPo pedagogy, please join our teacher group. Many people did, but it's wide open. So go to that message I sent last night and click on the link for the Google form and join us. And I'll continue to suggest that. Okay, here we go. Marcella, pick a poem.
Dropping leaflets.
Dropping leaflets. All right. I'm going to get a little audio, but I would like dropping leaflets. Okay. I would like Aiden, who mentioned this. Aiden, Allie, Erica, and Dan to be the ones, and Terry Talty, that's a lot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, to speak briefly in any way they wish about this poem. And I now shall get a little audio of it. Okay, so bear with me. Jenna, here is Jenna in this room, performing it in the fall of 2001, a month after 9/11. We had an event here called Finding the Words. And it was meant to be a celebration of the poetry of Marianne Moore. But it turned out to be that and also a conversation about finding the words. And Jenna wrote this poem for that. Here it goes.
The title of this program is called Finding the Words. And I find that every day when I read the newspaper, I'm looking for words. I'm looking for the words that explain everything. And instead, I keep sensing the presence of what's not being told. We know that the press is being controlled in a variety of ways. For instance, the government is pretty much the only source of information that we have. Press Secretary Ari Fleischer warns that Americans should watch what they say. Videos of bin Laden disappear because he might be sending coded messages. Recently, U.S. Representative Cynthia McKinney pointed out that voices of dissent are being ignored by the media, and she said, "Help me come up with a strategy to get through this white noise." I don't have that strategy, except to call attention to components of that white noise so we can hear it for what it is. So in the spirit of Marianne Moore, who often incorporated what she was reading into her poems, I'm going to read a piece made up of words that I found when I read transcripts of press conferences given by Bush, Ridge, Rumsfeld, and Cheney in the last few days. And what I did was I read the transcripts, printed them out, I tore them up, and then I stood on a chair and I bombed my office floor with them as if they were leaflets, and the leaflets told me what to do. So this piece is called Dropping Leaflets. Are we on the ground now? Ally cells, and I said operations. We cleared 50% of a wonderful friend and enduring opposition. Take the solid, louder. We clearly are louder. We are the postal system. No evidence has been information attacking the caves. Are you on the ground, enduring? A wonderful friend ramped it up. You ought to open your mail. Opposition element, the air. The talents work with precision, 84%. The population attacking the caves. The talents work with the caves and tunnels, hiding in caves, wavering in caves, and hiding in mosques.
It goes on for a couple minutes longer, but I think we got the general sense of it. I'm inviting comments from 5 people in the following order. Sorry, Erica, you're first. Didn't give you any warning. Erica, Allie, Dan, Terry, Aiden. Erica, thoughts?
I'm struck by what she says in that recording about how the leaflets told me what to do. And I feel like this is a piece that that I've actually been returning to quite a bit right now, because I think that we're in yet another political moment where, I'm trying to think carefully about what I say, where it feels like there's so much at stake in our world and things are happening, to put it mildly and abstractly, that are so bad that, engaging with language in a different way, in the way that Jenna does, is another way to enter into the conversation and potentially to see language differently and find pockets of hope.
Thank you, Erica. I don't know if I put Allie on deck, but Allie, you're up next.
You did. I'm thinking about the line, open your mail. You ought to open your mail and open your mail louder. And the irony it creates in suggesting that we have a choice about whether or not to be subjected to the white noise of this type of propaganda speak. And I was recently reading 1984 with a student of mine. And I'm also struck, I'm just thinking about the New York City mayoral election right now too. And I'm struck by how effective just repeating negative nonsense is in creating a negative vibe is the wrong word, but just in insisting to people whose ears are open in an unquestioning, receptive way that everything is bad and that all of that badness is true. Yeah, I don't know. It's just this poem's so good at making it just nonsensical enough that we can finally realize the form that's around us all the time.
Thank you, Allie. Dan will be next, followed by Aiden. And I just want to say that open the mail has 2 meanings there. It does have the meaning of opening your email, not so much, though, as opening your mail, like the letter that came through the mailbox. And the reference there is to potentially other people opening your mail, governmental forces, security forces. But also this was exactly the time when at certain places like NBC in New York, there was anthrax that was found in mail. And so when the President of the United States, to try to get people back to doing regular things, said we should all go to the baseball game. Let's just do it. Let's act like nothing happened. He didn't say it that way. He said, let's proceed with American life. And so he was all excited about baseball games because baseball had stopped functioning for a while and then they went back. But he also said you should open your mail. In other words, the mail comes through the slot. We need to read our mail. You've got bills to pay. And that felt to some people, maybe Jenna too, as ignoring the problem. Sorry for that little footnote. And now we go to Dan, followed by Aiden.
Dan says, what strikes me is her abiding love of language, even when language is betraying her.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Michael. Aiden, followed by Terry.
I like it a lot, I think, because it seems to, the confused sentences seem to capture both the confusion of the time, but also it captures the actual wording that was being used and the Manichaean language that was, there's evil and neutral is anybody neutral is horrible. Obviously, that was what they were saying at the time. So it really calls attention to how they were framing everything.
How they were framing everyone, yes. And Jenna is so articulate about the whole problem of framing. Thank you so much. All right, Terry is up, and then we're going to pick another poem. Terry, are you still there?
Yep, I'm here. I'm thinking how helpful it is to remember how bad it was in 2001, because we're feeling, like Ali said, how everything's bad right now. But it's really, it was pretty bad then. We were being pretty much lied to. And it's cool how Aiden suggested this, saying that he became liberal by learning more, and how important it is to get more information, to somehow, as Jenna said, get through all this white noise.
Thank you so much, Terry. Thank you all. I think that was really a great discussion of this important poem. So let's, Marcella, you want to pick another one? Here we go.
You jerk, you didn't call me up.
Is that in my Pope Plus?
It is, but you have to go back to week 7.
Yeah.
On Coursera, you have to it's
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go to Modpo Plus week 7 because I'd like to play the recording. I think that recording was made here, as a matter of fact, week 7. Thank you for noticing that. See, the thing about Bernadette, Lainey, is that Bernadette's in week 7, week 8, week 9, week 10, and probably could be with the
Bernadette
beats.
is every week and every day.
Bernadette is every time.
To me.
Bernadette is ubiquitous. She's an inspiration. Okay, hold on. Jerk. I'm just gonna. There it is. Control F jerk, and you got it. Okay. Here's. This is a video, but you'll only hear the audio of Bernadette Mayer at the Writer's House, being asked by me to read that poem.
I love all this experimental poetry, like the lists and like we've been studying in Moscow too. But like the list you guys just read from Barrican, who was it?
Ted Berrigan.
Ted
Berrigan, right.
But my question is, don't we have to be able to write regular poetry before we get to be experimental?
No,
it's
absolutely not.
Really?
Elizabeth,
Because
you're going to hear a strong answer from Bernadette, but please first turn down your computer sound because it's going to spin out of control very quickly. Much more important. All right, so you were going to hear this, and I think we all would give this answer, but let's hear Bernadette's version of it.
Well, I just want besides a no, because it's a pianist, an artist, they're always like a regular classical player before they start experimenting,
there's Erica.
right? You can't just be John Cage.
You're there, Erica.
I mean, it's the same thing like William Carlos Williams.
Well, you could be a little John Cage.
Go around and collect everybody's refrigerator lists, right?
You're saying that the poem about stealing the plums was easy to write, that you're a dissenter from where
if I can get poetry, which teach you nothing.
Well, that's my question, I guess. That's my big question. Does it teach you anything so you can go on and write the kind of poetry you're writing?
No, and if you want to, it doesn't teach you anything, but if you want to learn about meter and rhyme, you can study it on your own and do what you want to do with it. That's what I do. Get yourself a rhyming dictionary, study, get a good meter book.
No. That doesn't interest me at all.
Oh, God.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought it did.
No, I'm just saying that in order to
I don't know. This is actually great, but it's not where she does you jerk.
Refrigerator list is something worth
oh my
putting
gosh,
on a page.
Help.
And publishing. To even see that, it's almost as if you have to.
Okay, I am so sorry. I'm going to do this better, but it's really fun. Lainey, say something about hearing the voice of Bernadette make those statements, please.
I just love hearing her, and it just reminds me that one of her great gifts was that she's always curious about everything and everybody, and taking everything seriously and really earnest, like trying to figure out what the person wants to know and give it to them, you know. But she's also doesn't mess around. I mean, her opinions are no nonsense, you know. No.
Yeah. Okay, I'm having some trouble finding it, but I'm going to take another second or so because we need to find it. I'm just going to ask Sophia to read the sonnet. I found the text. You up for that? Okay, and I'll tell who's going to. I'm going to say so. Marcella, Sophia, Lainey, Laura, and Jane Ward will comment on this sonnet.
Okay. You jerk, you didn't call me up. I haven't seen you in so long. You probably have a fucking tan. And besides that, instead of making love tonight, you're drinking your parents to the airport. I'm through with you bourgeoisie boys. All you ever do is go back to ancestral comforts only money can get. Even Catullus was rich, but nowadays you guys settle for a couch by a soporific color cable TV set instead of any arc of love. No wonder the G.I. Joe team blows it every other time. Wake up! It's the middle of the night. You can either make love or die at the hands of the Cobra Commander.
Thank you. That was really good. Appreciate it. Okay, Marcella, followed by Sophia.
Well, I do think of that as one of the best endings to a poem ever. And it's so shocking. I mean, it's just a shocking sonnet. And I think of her relation to Catullus and how so much of Catullus wasn't translated in its full bodiness. And Bernadette reached back to collaborate. We were talking about collaboration before, to collaborate with Catullus and bring the reality of how he wrote forward, which I am just fascinated by. And then it was just interesting to hear that little exchange just now, because Bernadette was very aware of traditional poetic form and wrote in syllabics. And she said she wrote traditionally in an 11-syllable line, usually. So her lines are shaped, but the content is so fresh and curious. Like Lainey said, always curious about everything. Nothing was off limits. And this is a sonnet. I think I can identify a volta in it at the turn of the sonnet, and yet it's just now and fresh and immediate emotion, like Sappho almost, just this intimate frustration, anger, attraction, all of that is all in this poem. So.
Thank you, Marcel. Wonderful start to this. Sophia, followed by Lainey.
I mean, I see 14 lines. I see a sonnet. I don't even think a sonnet has to be 14 lines, but if you want to call it a sonnet, that's your prerogative. And she did that as well. I think this poem is great because it's, I think the word you just used was now. Like, I love, I think it's so funny. I think it's so blunt and it's so blatant, even though, like, I don't know what it means to be drinking your parents to the airport, but I'm like, yeah, that's great. Like, and I think she does this wonderful job of and then like condense it into this just really interesting kind of explosive sonnet it's just like the voice is so rich, and I just think it's fun to read. It was fun to read out loud.
Thank you so much. Okay, that's great. Lainey's up, and Laura will be on deck.
I just want to note the instruction at the bottom of the page, which I read it as part of the sonnet, but it could be a footnote. To make love, turn to page 121. To die, turn to page 172, which it's also hilarious, and it provides us with more radical ways of reading the book and how the sonnets are talking to each other and talking with other collaborators.
I'm so glad that you put that into the record. Those footnotes, they're just so metatextual, and it's almost right, Lainey. It's almost random You could turn any page to get that. You could turn any page.
Yeah,
to get
if you
that.
turn to those pages, you're not going to get an exact link where you can say, aha, she sent me to the poem that says to do
Right.
that. There's an opaque relationship to death and sex probably in every single sonnet.
Exactly. We're going to turn to Laura. Thank you, Lainey. We're going to turn to Laura. But first, would you tell us what the folks in the live stream are saying? Sophia, what are they saying? Are they having a good time?
Well, there was a conversation because there was some confusion about ModPo Plus, but we're working on it. Vijaya said about Burnett Mayer, I love that she owns her role of a mother as being part of a poet, which is true.
There was something else that Vijaya said. Hi,
Yes.
Vijaya, that I wanted to ballyhoo, echoing Dan and also you, Al. Learning is contagious. Same idea repeated in Al's book about the tech people who were involved in creating the ModPo forums on Coursera.
Yes, they are main characters in that book. Anything else, Sophia?
Matthew just said, I wish Lainey was here to explain the opaque references to my local superintendent.
I'm guessing that Matthew, I didn't know Matthew Coben is a teacher. It sounds like he is. Can we fly you to wherever he is, Lainey, to have a little one-on-one with the superintendent?
Sure, I'll
Oh,
say
come on,
not
don't
even
say
knowing
yes.
where
Don't
that
say yes.
is.
That's such a bad idea. Can you imagine how Matthew is setting you up? Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to go to Laura, then Jane, then we're going to pick another poem.
I mean, I love this poem because I love the mix of high and low art that you can have a reference to Catullus in Cobra Commander, whom I did not know who that was.
Did you look it up?
I did. I now know a lot more about G.I. Joe and Cobra Commander. And we even sort of like did the math on, she, not to be real sexist, but I was like, probably because she had a son who was perhaps watching those cartoons. But, so much around poetry outside of Mod Po, there's a feeling of gatekeeping, of making the entry, the barriers are high. And I feel like a poem like this, which joyfully mixes high and low, invites people in. So that's what I mean, from the use of the word jerk, you're reading a different kind of poem. And just all the little language choices, arcs of love, drinking your parents to the airport. There are just so many choices that make you stop and listen a little harder and think about it on a word level.
Well said, Laura. Thank you. By the way, since you've got the mic, tell us the title of your newest book.
It sounds very corny when I say it out loud. My last book was called Murder Takes a Vacation.
And does it? Never. You're
No,
always
it
writing
doesn't.
about murder.
I'm always dropping a body somewhere. So, it's my job.
Oh, it is your job. It's a good job to have. And you seem to be having fun with it.
Oh yeah.
There's I read one over the summer, one of your books, and there was no winking. There was no narrative like, I'm having a gas, but you could tell. Totally fantastic. All right, Jane Ward, last thought on this poem, You Jerk.
It reminds me of a poem by Diane Wachowski, Dancing on the Grave of a Son of a Bitch. And that kind of takes me back to the 70s, even that drinking your parents to the airport. Yeah, I could see drinking while you're driving to the airport back
Especially
then.
because there's such a
It was
pain in
pretty
the
common.
ass.
Yeah.
We're going to be late.
And the G.I. Joe.
The plane from Miami is leaving late. Come on, we've got to go. Sorry. Thank you, Jane, so much. Okay, we're going to do one more poem, and we're
Do
going
you want a quick response from Dan?
Yes, of
to
course
this?
I do. Absolutely.
Okay. Hold on, I have to figure out how to read this. I know the gist of it, but I want to give you the gist. So angry about such ordinary activities that making love becomes exotic, so the poem celebrates the one thing that isn't happening. I'd love to see this paired with the expensive spirit and a waste of shame.
Wow, Dan. There was more. That was a condensation of what he wrote?
No, that's what he wrote.
That's what he wrote.
I think he was trying to get it done by the time the discussion was over.
No, I get it. That's great. Hi, Meredith. Meredith has just walked in. Okay, so we're going to do another poem for which I'm going to invite Dave, Erica, Kate, and Gab to comment. But before that, Erica, I want to invite you, although Joan Rotalick has been put into the mug several times in several ways, there's no guarantee that Joan will get pulled from the mug. Maybe she will, and what you're about to say will be a great setup to the next part of the conversation. But I would like to invite you to take a minute or two, and you have to leave soon, so we'll be quick about it, to say something about Joan, her influence on you, what you perceive to be her influence on ModPo pedagogy, anything personal also you want to say about Joan's leadership of a certain idea, a certain aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Al. And this is a moment where I also might want to put Marcella a tiny bit on the spot, because Marcella and Jennifer Firestone organized an event this summer that was celebrating Joan, and we had a wonderful panel conversation involving Marcella, Jennifer Firestone, and Evelyn Riley. And Joan was in the audience, and it was an opportunity for me to actually make legible some of what Joan's many gifts have been, both to me personally, but also to ModPo and to the world of poetics. And obviously, I could say many things, but I'm going to say something about her poetics, which I think directly connects to this week, which is, at least for me, when I first encountered Joan's work in the early 2000s, I found a way of approaching the making of the poem. So when you were talking about poesis before, Al, that to me feels very much like something that I've learned from Joan, which is, the making of the poem as being a really tangible act, and how approaching, the act of writing through oftentimes procedures. And I'm saying procedure and not chance or aleatory intentionally, because I think that the procedural is even more open to experimenting with language in order to, I suppose, evoke or interrogate change. As far as the pedagogy goes, a lot of the way that I teach actually came from studying with Joan and teaching in a program that she was then directing called the Language and Thinking Program at Bard College, which is a program I actually myself now direct. And through Joan, I learned a lot about, the importance of teaching poetry across contexts, the importance of engaging in serious play, meaning that anytime you're engaging with language, there should be something at stake, but there should also be an opportunity to be playful. And that, being playful and having something at stake are not mutually exclusive. I could keep going, but I want to be mindful of time.
Thank you so much. That was great. Yes, and the sincerity with which Joan argues that we must play with language might, in some cases, Marcella, create a feeling of opposition or paradox, but in fact, she manages to integrate those two. Do you want to make a comment on Joan, Marcella?
Yeah, I just, I find the combination of poetical, her poetics is this ethicality mixed with aesthetic, mixed with openness to what things have to offer to her. And I'm always fascinated by what she selects and does not select to include in her work. And also in terms of eco-poetics, she was amazingly ahead of our time in terms of, I don't think she defined it as eco-poetics, maybe eco-poetics, but she certainly integrated very complicated sense of the relation of poet to exterior world that it's hard to paraphrase it, because The Poetical Wager, which is such an incredible book, is so complex, and just the reading of it is so much pleasure. It's that way they say that your brain responds to complicated open-ended things and that it's just a complicated pleasure to read slowly through it. And I think that applies to play too, that play is how you keep your brain young, I guess, and enjoy what you're doing. I mean, why write poetry if you aren't playful? It's an essence to poetry, I think, right? So.
Yes, and I think, thank you both. And Joan is clearly an influence on what happens here at the Writers' House. And Bernadette too. We've, two of the, makers of the ideas here that are important need to be acknowledged. And the third one off the top of my head, of course, is Emily Dickinson. Okay, so let's pick another poem, one last one from the mug. What do we got?
I'm sorry, Erica. I got Call Me Ishmael.
Call Me Ishmael. That's so good. Laura, do we have a recording of Jackson? I don't know. I think we do, don't we? Laura, do you know? Didn't you pick that one?
No.
Oh, you didn't.
That was Jane.
Jane picked it. Okay. So we're going to have Dave, Erica, Kate, and Gab comment on this. And Jane, since you picked it, maybe we'll ask you to do the same. Okay. So I'm going to try to find it, and it'll take a second.
Call Me Ishmael.
Call Me Ishmael, Jackson McClough. It's an early poem. I mean, early in his aleatory phase. So that's not the way to do it. Go to modpo.org. If anybody finds it, let me know.
It's the first one in part one. Right there.
And is there a audio?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to get it. Call Me Ishmael. There it is. Okay, it's short. Here we go.
Always Call Me Ishmael, and then I'll play a little bit of the eight-voice canon from the Black Tarantula crossword garden. Call Me Ishmael. Circulation and long, mind every interest, somehow mind in every long coffin about little, money especially. I sure, having money about especially little. Cato, a little. Me extreme. I sail have me an extreme little. Cherish and left. Myself extremist. At sea hypos myself an extremist left. City a land. Mouth. East is spleen, hand, mouth. And east, land.
All right, that's Jackson McClough. The first part you couldn't hear, but then it got clearer. And so we're going to start with Dave, followed by Erica. Oh, Erica's off, so we're going to go to Kate after that.
I don't know. I have mixed thoughts about this poem. It's funny because sometimes I think a lot of these poems, a lot of these conceptual works, it's just about the concept. It's almost like the whole work of the poet is put into the idea, the concept, the procedure, and what it actually produces is just proof of concept. It's almost incidental. But I think this is interesting because it's clearly a very tight procedure. Call Me Ishmael. The letters are repeated in every stanza. Each word represents a letter in that phrase. But this proof of concept, if that's what it is interesting because it does communicate something from the text, from the work,
Moby Dick, yeah.
It's clearly in there. So it is more than just proof of concept because you read it and it does make you think about how even the words just taken almost at random are part of an idea, part of a work, part of something else that can still be conveyed even when you disassemble it and scramble it and bring it together. So I don't know, this challenges my skepticism of this type of poetry a little bit.
Thank you, Dave. And as I turn to Kate, I just wanted to add a comment. When I was a junior in college, I took a whole course on Moby Dick. That's all we did is read Moby Dick. And I memorized the first couple of pages. I'm not sure I could do it now, and I won't. But I memorized the first couple of pages, and it's pretty amazing. And frankly, when I hear Jackson recite that, I can hear Moby Dick. I can hear a kind of fabulous condensation. It's in my head. And I just want to say one more thing, Kate. The phrase, call me Ishmael, is the biggest problem of Moby Dick, which is to say, who is this narrator? Who's talking? You can call me Ishmael, but call me is like, you could call me Joe, you could call me Al, but we'll say Ishmael. So the narrator is a problem. We don't know who it is. And Jackson's whole thing would, if he had been able to talk to Melville, he would have said, I think that's the main problem. We need to take the ego out of the declaration of a certain narrator. We need to sort of find another place. And so he's basically allowing himself to ponder on the whole question of who the narrator is. Call me Ishmael. What a random thing.
There's a scene in The Simpsons that starts out with the old grizzled Navy captain on the dock on a payphone. And as the scene opens, he says, call me back, Ishmael, and hangs up.
Call me back. The word back was missing. I love that. Kate, followed by Gab.
Well, I hear nothing so much in this poem as Stein, with all the repetition and the motion of the poem. But by stripping away all of our pre-gurgitated ideas about this epic American novel, about which so many of us, even those who haven't even read it, have thoughts and ideas and notions, he's just, I don't know, he's giving us a new narrative here, just based on language.
I love that. A new narrative. Perfect. Thank you, Kate. And we're going to turn to Gab, followed by Jane Ward. We need a mic, yes.
This is reminding me of the N+7, N+1 format, where every word is just a long or short distance away from the word that it becomes and the next word. So I feel like this is the type of poem where I'm like, now I'm in math or science mode, and I'm like, how to call circulation, coffin, Cato, cherish, city, relate or not. But because it's so formulaic, my mind just goes to that space, and it's really cool.
Formulaic, which is normally, Lainey, in regular old discourse, a negative word, formulaic. Oh, that TV show, that Netflix show is formulaic. But I think Jackson turned that around and make formulaic like the most liberating, freeing thing.
Yes, and partially because he didn't come up with an Olympian formula like N+7 you just referred to. He made procedures for all his different works, and then when people tried to copy him, because that happened, he would say, make your own system.
Yeah.
Don't copy me.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic. Okay, thank you, Gab. Jane Ward, are you on the line? Jane? We may have lost Jane. I mean, after all, Terry and Jane have been on the...
I muted myself.
Oh, no, you're good. Hello. Hi. You've got that slab of whatever phones are made of next to your ear for 90 minutes coming on it. And I apologize, but I assume you're okay.
It's fun. It's fun. This poem does remind me of Stein, and especially with the repetition. And then there's something about little, Cato, little. It really reminds me of a little called Pauline, which my granddaughter likes me to read to her. And she likes the name Pauline.
How old is your granddaughter, Jane?
Lily. She's 5.
5.
And
so are you reading some radical texts? Are you reading some experimental texts?
I am reading to her. She also likes Dickinson. Yep.
Great. And is it possible that they will that Grandma will be no longer allowed into the house with radical texts?
No, they let me have my way with her, mainly because she likes her way with Grandma. So
I love it. I can well imagine the scene. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Did you finish your thought?
Close enough. It was just a fun poem to read, and I loved being able to pick out his pattern in it. It was
great.
Made me feel happy.
And we're happy you're here. Terry and Jane, please stay on the line. We're going to go to extended final words. And during these final words, Dan is going to Michael will report a pre-write that Dan prepared for us when it comes time. Marcella, in addition to your final thoughts about this activity, we hope that you'll read a poem. And Sam, we want you to be part of final thoughts too, even though they're initial thoughts for you. Okay? All right. So we're going to go around. We're going to start with Gab, and Jane Ward will be on deck.
Final thoughts. I'm glad that Sam is here. It feels so in theme with the week.
Thank you. Who was on deck? I've just said it, but I've forgotten. Jane Ward, back to you. Final thoughts?
Well, after being with Modpo from the beginning, this is the first year I really, really enjoyed week 9. So you've opened my mind up.
Oh, that's great.
I'm accepting it now.
That's great. And what accounts for that? Just sort of getting used to us talking about it and pushing forward?
That, and just seeing the fun in it, and the fact that poetry doesn't have to be so difficult.
Yes, love that. Allie will be up, and Aiden is on deck.
Yeah, I love week 9. I'm just thinking about what Jane just said, and also, and we've been talking about this a lot, but also like fun towards serious ends. And that like to make like a serious statement about something, you can be playful and have fun. Yeah, so I love it. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, first witness to that, Lainey Brown, Sophia DeRose, and I are co-teaching a course on Holocaust, representations of the Holocaust this semester, and I was a little trepidatious about bringing gamification into it, but we've done it to some degree, and I think everybody respects that democratic move, even though it's a little funny sometimes, and that's just, it's what we have to do. Thank you. Aiden is up, and Marcella will be on deck for a final thought and a poem.
I just wanted to share or mention an example of the fact that aleatory poetry is still alive and well. I was looking at before I came this morning, and Allison C. Rollins published a book called Black Bell last year. One of her poems, it's performance instructions. There's 60 words that are like emotions, and it instructs you how to cut them all out and put them in little envelopes, and then you create a poem. So this type of chance poetry is still alive and well.
I love that. Thank you so much, Aiden, and thanks for being here today. Marcella Durand, it's Marcella Day. We're so happy you're here.
Just before Halloween.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a delight. I really love to see Jackson McClough revisited, and I'm a huge believer in intentional chance and randomness. I think it's very important to poetry because it reveals the curve of the universe and smallifies the self, which is always a good thing. So I just did a little bibliomancy with my own book, and it fell open to a poem that may speak a little bit to the interaction of chance.
What's the title of your book? And can you hold it up to the camera?
A Winter Triangle. So just out from Fordham University Press. And the cover is from a medieval Islamic engineer who kind of invented automata. And this is an automated peacock with water flowing out of its mouth. So like many poets, I'm a little concerned about this AI business. So, and this poem is called Calligraphic Galleon, and it's based on a piece in the Museum of Modern Art where it's a boat written. The boat is written in what's called dust-like script. So the writing created the image of the boat. Calligraphic galleon. The boat is written in dust-like script. The boat plows through the waves, a composition of waves painted from a composition of waves, built of a complexity of elements interacting via numerous laws of physics. A cold way to look at it, drawing from photos. Who would know that she draws from photos? Surfaces reveal their possibilities. Pencil on waves from an image, waves similar and never not. Boat built of script, not words, italics, were meant to convey a human hand. The reproduction of a hand, a mechanical welcome to the script. The tauton sits until the button is pressed. The man sports a top hat and a waxed mustache, he whispers. It would be better to buy the guide to becoming a magician in English, he whispers. Don't tell the boss.
Ha-ha.
Thank you.
That's lovely. Thank you so much, Marcella, and we're looking forward to the rest of today and the 6 p.m. reading, which will be available as a live stream. Did I put somebody on deck? Jane Ward, I think. No, Jane already. Did I put?
Might be Dan.
I didn't put Dan on deck. I want to make sure I didn't miss Jane. Did I miss Jane? Did Jane do a final thought?
She did.
She did.
Yeah,
Okay.
I gave you one.
Great. So let's go to Dan, followed by Sophia. Thank you, Dan.
Okay, so to Marcella, Dan says, that's a lovely poem. It makes you use your ears to see.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, this is Dan's pre-written contribution to week 9. In the spirit of Halloween, I want to say something about fear. As a person with autism and a fair share of helplessness, I know many kinds of fear, from open desk drawers to complicated logistical plans. But ModPo taught me to love Gertrude Stein and not to be afraid of poetry. And I think when we come to week 9 with mischief and a desire to try things, we can expand and thrive. And when we cower because we fear the loss of meaning, we are needlessly fearful. The secret about meaning is that it's something we all make, even when we think poets are making it for us. And there's plenty enough for all of us. But there's fear on the other side, too. Poets who are trying to eradicate meaning because they fear intentionality are being needlessly frightened, too. So let's go for mischief and not act out of fear. Now, thinking about aleatory constraints led me to remember my life before I could make language, and all the speech I heard and listened to as if it were music, with occasional bits of meaning in it like chocolate chips in a cookie. Like many people with non-speaking autism, my hearing was unusually sharp, and I could hear conversations in other apartments. So here's a poem from ModPo Week 9. I sent it through a text-to-speech computer for you. The computer can't do justice to the sexual tension I overheard, which is probably just as well. Then I added some rhymes because I was writing a poem, but not good or useful rhymes. Let me get the volume up.
Fear, near, sear. I am so glad, sad, bad, plaid. Glad you're here. Fear, near, sear, clear, here. 192 apartments in the building, and you came, blame, same frame, came to help me.
Of course. My horse.
I hope you don't mind. Kind, signed, blind, rind, grind, mind. I've had a terrible day. Pined. It's the faucet in the sink. Pink, stink. Rink, link, sink.
Cheryl, I have to work, you know I have to work. Quirk, shirk, berserk, work. I'll try to come back later. Crater.
What about the faucet?
So good. Dan?
Dan says thanks.
You are. Thank you, Dan. You are most welcome. That is so cool. I love the idea of you're making a poem out of the memory of having heard keenly what other people are saying and then rhyming it. I mean, I'm saying the obvious summary of the procedure. Thank you, Dan.
Heard without really understanding it.
Right. And now, later, making more sense of it, but also through the rhyme, making less sense of it at the same time. That's just brilliant. Would you post or send to me, and I will post the comment and maybe a link. We can get the audio up.
Sure, Dad will do it.
Dad, thank you. My collaborator. Okay, thank you, Dan. Love you so much. Sophia, followed by Dave Poplar.
For my final thought, I would just like to read a line by John Cage and get it into the room because I've been thinking about it a lot recently. And it says, syntax, which is what makes things understandable, is the army, is the arrangement of the army. So what we're doing when we make language ununderstandable is we're demilitarizing it so we can do our living. And with Dan in the room, it just makes me think that doing our living means doing our living however that means for us, no matter how differently. And I think poetry that allows different lives to exist on the page and in conversation is vitally important always. But it feels especially important right now.
Thank you so much, Sophia. You're so right. I'm glad you quoted that. It's a anthemic statement. Modpo in the later weeks. Dave is up and Laura will be on deck.
I love the line from Dan's poem. What about the faucet? I think that could almost be a tagline for Modpo in a sense. Another thing I just wanted to mention is office hours again, and to encourage everybody to go to different people's office hours. In my office hours last night, people came in really talking about and praising Lainey's office hours, where she guided everybody through one of Bernadette Mayer's writing experiments. And it sounded really, really cool. And it just impressed me how different experiences each person's office hours are and how there's so much to get out of them when you bring people into the room in different situations. So I would just encourage everybody to go to as many of them as you can.
Thank you, Dave. I'll just say that, I mean, the disaster I'm about to describe will not happen. We will make sure it doesn't happen. But if there's some kind of disastrous unplugging of the MOOC platform, and we just had these webcasts, which don't rely on the platform, and office hours, which do rely on certain technology, but not the MOOC platform, we would be just fine. That it would be a really cool course, a community that could do it. So just emphasizing how important that is, as well as this collaboration that we do. Thank you, Dave. Laura's up, and Sam will be on deck.
This is my third year in ModPo. I have loved week 9 from Jump. I have always been open to experimentation as someone who works in a form that's considered incredibly formulaic. When I was stuck in the middle of a novel one time, this is in 2017, I went on Facebook and I said, give me a noun and I'll give you a chapter. Friends came in, I had a list of nouns, I picked one, and I literally wrote a chapter based on the noun, and it is in the finished book. So I feel like I have a lot of week 9 in me.
Oh, I love that. That is so cool. Thank you, Laura, and thanks for making the trip. Sam, final thoughts on something you just jumped into and had no idea what it was about?
I feel very welcome here. So thank you, everybody. This has been such a delight. I feel like I've been smiling the whole time. And yeah, I can't wait to read all the poems. I wrote everything down that everybody put in the little cup. So I'm going to take a look at everything, write a couple poems, hopefully come to office hours, learn what that is, where that is, and...
So yeah, you talk to me afterwards. We need to just get you signed up for the course. It's free and it's easy, and we'll get you connected. But this happens.
Wonderful. And I think the last thing I want to say is I heard a bunch of references to like Roman stuff the last hour, and it just made me realize that like I don't remember any of the political things that happened in Rome, like at all, but I do remember the poems. So I'm happy to be here.
Love that, Sam. Welcome to Philadelphia, city of some kind of love. Yes, I know. Okay, forgot to put somebody on deck. So we're going to have Kate. Kate will be up, and Terry Talty will be on deck.
I have so many things to say, but I will stick to two. I want to say I'm thrilled to see Marcella at the table. I got to read with her a few weeks ago, and Ann Tardos was there, so I feel like it's very kind of week 9 convergence. And also that I love and I'm interested in the differences and the tensions between weeks 9 and 10 of the course. So I love this space, this time of ModPo.
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, I mean, another version of ModPo could be all weeks 9 and 10, frankly. It'd be easy to do because there's plenty in ModPo Plus already for it. Okay, we're going to go to, I think I put Terry on deck. I'm not doing a very good job housekeeping here. Terry Talty's on deck. Terry Talty's up, and Lainey is on deck.
Yep, here I am, and I am so happy for this community. And, my buds in all these office hours that we go to. Matt Litwin last night just summed up the week 9, why it's so great. This poetry is great when it makes my mind think new stuff, is what he said. It makes my mind think new stuff.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Thank you, Terry. Do you want to shout out a couple of longtime ModPo friends whom you've gotten to know only through ModPo?
Oh, Vijaya, Denny, new friend Emma. There's a silent Carlos in Dave's office hour. It's so great. And these are people that sometimes we meet in real life. Jane, we know all about each other's grandkids. It's really fun.
Yeah, whoever said that online community wasn't a community, they have no idea actually all the advantages that can be derived from an online community, namely crossing geographies, crossing generations, crossing class and social status, crossing any...
and...
Go ahead.
AWS went down last Monday.
Yeah.
They had that big attack.
Yes.
Coursera was affected by it.
Yes.
I mean, I think a lot of us thought we were going to lose our mind because we couldn't get to ModPo.
Oh, there's a thought. Oh my gosh. Well, we need to have that backup. We need plan B. Chris and Zach, can you get outside of the Amazon cloud? Yeah, okay. We're going to go to Lainey, and then I will have the final word, and then we're off on time as usual.
What an amazing webcast. I just want to say thank you to everybody and just echo a few things. I loved Laura's pointing to the joyful mix of the high and low in Bernadette, this all inclusivity, and Dave's call me back Ishmael Simpsons. And I love Dan's poem. I feel like you're doing something with rhyme that nobody is doing. It's very hard to use rhyme in the English language, and so most living poets don't even try. So that was really inspiring. Please come to the final week of office hours. 5:00 Monday will be mine, and hope to see you there.
Thank you, Lainey, as always, for that and everything. Before I say a couple of words, Sophia, do you want to look at the chat stream and see what folks are saying?
Well, Terry said, I was so on the spot, I forgot so many people.
Oh.
Vijaya said, thank you all for one more fantastic webcast. Thank you all, my friends. Kathy said, I'm starting to value chants and poetry more.
Yay, Kathy. Good job,
love.
Kathy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Well, we've talked about Joan and Bernadette and others who are inspirations, Emily Dickinson And one of the other inspirations of the Writers' House is someone who was committed to the idea of non-academic spaces where poetry happens, like a lot of people of his generation and before, and that, of course, is Jerome Rothenberg, the late Jerry Rothenberg. Jerry would do just fine in week 3 and especially 4 as someone who was interested in Stein and also Dada. And he kind of was friends with many of the week 6 poets, the Beats. And in fact, one of his first trips to San Francisco, he hung out with Lamantia and Ferlinghetti and all that. He also had been friends and was an inspiration of many of the language poets, week 8. He doesn't have a formal relationship with aleatory or chance-based poetry, but through Dada got very interested in it. And he doesn't really belong in week 10 either, because he's not in any sense a conceptual poet. But he's an inspiration to everyone, and particularly to the Writers' House. He believed that the only place to study poetry, to learn poetry, to understand poetry was in spaces where poetry actually happened. That was his phrase. He was not interested in spaces such as classrooms where poetry was talked about. He didn't want that. He wanted spaces where poetry actually happened. And he had a phrase, he was interested in cafes, he was interested in what he called kivas, and then he made a wonderful statement about this, a negative statement about teaching poetry in classrooms in the curriculum, and I'll read it, and then we will be off. He talks about how things that he would not want to have become as a result of his teaching and training as in education in schools. He writes, "As for poetry belonging in the classroom, it's like the way they taught us sex in those old hygiene classes, not performance, but semiotics." Which is hilarious. If I had taken Hygiene 71 seriously, I would have become a monk. And if I had taken college English seriously, I would have become an accountant. He didn't become an accountant. He ran screaming away from accountants, except his own accountant probably was helpful, and into the arms of poetry, which happened and was made, but not talked about only, not studied. And he became one of the great, along with people like Bernadette and others, the great proponents of spaces that were unofficial. And third spaces, and I consider ModPo to be a complicated version, because we're in a university, of those third spaces. Third spaces are not families, they're not schools, they're something that's otherwise, but still feel as powerful as those other spaces. Thank you all for being in such a space, even if it's digital. Thank you all for being part of our discussion today. Thank you to the people who traveled to be here. And have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you at the Week 10 webcast, followed by the Final Words webcast a week from next Monday, and Marcella Durand at 6 p.m. Go to the Kelly Writers House YouTube page and watch the stream. Thank you all. Bye-bye.